this side so that you can be able to see the PowerPoint while you're talking.
Okay.
Tell me when you want the pictures up.
Okay. I'm just going to.
That's the first picture.
Okay.
You want to
All right.
hold this? Would that
No,
be easier?
that's fine. You can just leave it at that picture because I'm going to talk a little bit about some preliminary stuff. So I was able to go to Zambia, Africa, to with Jewish Voice Ministries International in outreach, medical outreach. Jewish Voice goes to.
Sorry, kiddo, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
We're going to put this right here.
I know you love that.
Are you relaxed now?
Oh, I gotta find another church.
Oh, no.
So I went with Jewish Voice Ministries International, and their outreach is in Africa to the lost Jewish tribes. And the reason that they go specifically to the Jew first is based on Romans 1:16. For I am not ashamed of the good news, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who trusts, to the Jew first, and also to the nations. This is a Messianic Jewish group. They love Jesus Messiah more than anything, and it's a good group. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Lambda tribe. The Lambda are Levites. By DNA, they have been identified. They fled south through Africa during the siege and destruction of the first temple, during the first temple period. And again, as I said, that has been proven by DNA. Tribes are found in Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and the northern area of South Africa and Somaliland. They have continued their religious practices and celebrations and feasts since the time of the first temple. So that is how they were originally discovered. They are an extremely persecuted group. So the ministry supplies medical needs, and all are inclusive to their neighbors, to their Muslim neighbors as well as their Gentile neighbors, because what they're trying to do is to show that the Lambda, the Jews, are a light to the whole of the nation. No one is excluded. No one that would show up at this ministry would be excluded for any reason. For any reason. In Zambia, there has been a long-term drought and famine. There is no chance at medical care for these people, because if they do have money, it's going to go for food and clean water or other supplies that they need to survive. In Zambia, if you go to a hospital or a doctor, you must pay first. There's no such thing as insurance. You must pay first. You must pay up front, or you don't get care. And it doesn't matter what the condition you're being presented with. You don't get care if you don't pay. So our day started out at 5:45 in the morning with prayer until 6:30. Then we went to the clinic area and we gathered in prayer at the prayer tent for worship until 8 a.m. Then we would see patients until 5 p.m. There's no electricity, there's no running water. Everything had to be done during the daylight. I think you can go, that's a picture of the group. I think that's when we landed in Lusaka. It might be in Qatar, but that's when we landed in Lusaka. But if you want to go to the next picture, it starts to show how long the lines were when we got there. People came from as far as 100 miles away. They would walk as much as 50 miles to get there. the ones that came from the furthest, Jewish Voice had rented 2 trucks to go out to the different tribes to bring them. So, but most people walked for days to get there, and when we left at night, we would pass people walking the roads to come to the clinic for the next morning. They would camp out. That's just the way that it was. If you go to the next, there's another picture of the lines. And I don't think you can see it very well, but that's 4D. That's about 1,000 people or more, and it's a 4 deep, and that's just one point in time during the day. The lines were that long from morning until night. The next picture, I believe, that's the tent right in front of the lines, and that is where people would first go. That would be their the medical triage. It was set up like a tent city MASH unit, like if you ever saw MASH, it was just like that. So this was the triage. This was the first place that they would go. If it was a medical need, they would see a doctor there right away. If it was a dental need, they would be sent to the dental unit, the dental tent, and the dental tent would do cleanings and extractions. There was also a tent for eye care where they did glasses and minor surgeries like taking foreign bodies out of eyes. In many of the outreaches, they do cataract surgery or cornea transplants. That was not able to be done here because of the lack of electricity. But they would treat things like glaucoma and provide medications and do all kinds of things like that, and reading glasses. Let's see, the next one. That's still a picture. That's one of the ladies from the group, and that is still a picture of the triage. The next picture, that's the dental unit. That's Rebecca, and she was sorting out the dental patients to go to either get cleanings or to get extractions. They did some minor surgeries and mouth care. And then if you go to the next, that is the eye. That is Michael, and he is helping out at the eye clinic where they would do either, eyeglasses and other things. The next picture, that is the pharmacy. If a medication was needed or prescribed, people would go there and wait their turn. We had 3 pharmacists that were from Ethiopia. All were staffed by Jewish Voice Ministries, and then they had a lot of interpreters there to help teach the patients or the people how to use whatever medications they needed. They got all kinds of medications, vitamins, mostly vitamins and antiparasitics, along with medications to treat whatever condition: hypertension, diabetes, antibiotics. Most all women and children got the vitamins. As the women reported, they eat nothing but dirt for the iron. There is no food. There is no food. I did not have a clue about that until I got there, but that was reported to me by one of the physicians that came to us, that that's what the women eat to stay alive, the dirt. And the water is filthy, full of parasites, so everybody got antiparasitics too. On average, the children ate 2 meals a week, and that is just the way it is. That is also a view of the pharmacy, and that is Lanice. She is 84 years old. She goes on all the outreaches, and she helps out at the pharmacy. And she's been on 34 of these outreaches. She is a Messianic Jew. She lives in Pittsburgh, and she is a real joy. Okay, we can just stop there for a minute. Okay, so another tent is the Living Waters tent. That is where the women are taught how to use the filter straws, so that which filters out all the bacteria and parasites and things out of the water. Each person gets a straw. Each community, which is usually made up of like a family group, gets it's about a gallon size jug that they pour water in the top and it filters out into the bottom, and then they have like a gallon at a time. The next, all right, that's still okay. I'm going to talk about the nursing tent now. So the nursing tent was actually an emergency tent. So anybody that was in line that was having an emergency would be taken right to the nursing tent. We also had a small OR where we did minor surgeries. The medical emergencies included things from injections, IVs, wounds, hypertension, urgencies, insulin drips, and we also did some life-changing surgeries. They took, I think it was on Tuesday, Dr. Shibata, who is the medical outreach director for Jewish Voice. He is also a resident of Zambia, and he runs a clinic in Zambia. And he was working on taking out a lipoma, a huge growth on the back of this gentleman's neck. And I was next to him, and I heard him get a little bit exasperated, and I asked what's going on, and he says it's stuck to the cervical collar. Well, that has now become a life critical thing. The only thing I knew to do was to go over to the prayer tent and tell Rabbi Tim, I said, this is what's going on, you need to start praying. About 10 minutes later, Dr. Shibata was able to get the lipoma off the cervical collar, and there will be no ill effects for this gentleman. He could have literally lost his life, and had the lipoma gotten any bigger, he would have lost his life. So that was a miracle, because that's not even something that would be happening here in the United States. But a lot of growths that impeded movement in the joints and things of that large ones at shoulder blades and hands and joints, they were all taken out and surgically removed, and again, these people's lives were changed. Abscesses were debrided. There was a lot that was done. It was very busy there. We also had an OBGYN tent and a cancer screening tent. We had a woman who came in crisis. She had been 13 weeks pregnant with a partial miscarriage, and she was hemorrhaging. And she walked to us like that. No idea how far she came. But we could not help her. Jewish Voice Ministries put her in a van and transported her down to a hospital in Lusaka, which was 95 miles away, to get treatment. And Jewish Voice will pay for that, or has paid for that, and will make sure that she is taken care of. All follow-up medical care is taken care of for that. But that was a new thing that they started this year, was the cervical cancer screenings for these women too. And as I said, anyone who truly needed hospitalization, if something was really bad going on, Jewish Voice would get them to a hospital and would follow up on their care and make sure that it was paid for. And we had one gentleman with cerebral malaria, which is a pretty bad thing, and he was taken. And then we had a little boy come in with what his mother was explaining was like infected tonsils. Dr. Shibata took one look at it and told me that it was malignant. There was nothing he could do, and he was also transported to the hospital with his mother, and he was probably about 7 years old. But just keep him in prayer. Keep him in prayer. The hospital was 95 miles away. It took about 5 hours to get there because it was all dirt road, rutted road, and I know when our bus left on Friday morning and started driving that way, the bus was a little too heavy, didn't get through some of the ruts, and we were stuck for a couple hours, and I had to walk a couple miles until they could get the bus out and over those ruts till they could put the weight back in the bus. So it happens. We also had a lab, and they tested for STDs, HIV, blood sugars, anemias, etc. Most of the women were anemic, and a couple had been transported to the hospital to get blood transfusions, and that was all due to diet, parasites, things of that nature. And then you see, this is the prayer tent. Nobody was required to go, but everybody was invited to go. Everyone who was treated was invited to go. And there were multiple medical miracles that happened there, multiple salvations. Go to the next picture. I think the next picture. Okay, this lady is from South Africa. She's part of our team, and her interpreter, and they're with a woman who accepted Christ. The next picture. Okay, that's the same. That's still the prayer tent, but the next picture. Let's see. Okay, so this lady came in on a stretcher. She couldn't walk, hasn't been able to walk for 4 years. Her daughter was on the other side of the tent, being witnessed to, and accepted Christ. Her mother said, yes, you can pray for me. And Patrick and his interpreter laid down and put his hand on her chest and started praying for her. If you go to the next slide, she's able to sit up on her own and wave. This is right after the prayer. If you go to the next slide, it's a video. And I hope it shows. But they got her up, and she walked by herself from one end of the tent to the next.
I can't find it.
It's okay. It's okay. But she walked from one end of the tent to the next. Rabbi Tim went to her daughter and said, your mother can walk. And she said, oh no, she can't. She hasn't walked for 4 years. And he said, come look. Come look. The daughter saw her mother walk, and she started screaming, Jesus is real, Jesus is real. Now my tent is next to this. I did not witness this, but I could hear her screaming, and I'm like, what is going on? Because she's screaming in her own language. And later on, when I asked what happened, I was told, and I was like, well, praise God. That was just one of 2 instances of women who could not walk that did walk out of that clinic at that time. But there were other miracles that happened. There was a little boy who came in with seizures. Dad didn't know what to do with him. They had to hold him down to keep from hurting himself, and he was delivered of demonic possession. It turned out that Dad had been taking him to witch doctors for cures, and he was actually demonized. And he was delivered and completely cured by the hand of Jesus. Many men and women were delivered from demonic oppression because of the witchcraft that's very common. Witch doctors are all over. They advertise, even when we were in Lusaka, on every corner. There was one sign that said, if you're having relationship troubles, come to this witch doctor. He will fix it, that kind of thing. So it was very common. And then Hannah, who is a physician from Southern California, she was showing me pictures of some of the areas on people's bodies that had been tattooed by witch doctors to remove pain, to remove this or to remove that. And those people were treated medically and then offered a chance to go to the medical tent also for deliverance. All in all, I don't have the exact number, but we know that 640 decisions for Christ were made by the men and women and children there. And now those 640 plus will go on to tell others about Jesus Christ Messiah. We also had a kids' tent, and I'm going to say it operated kind of like a vacation Bible school. And it was just precious because from where I was, when I was outside of my tent, I could see them playing. So it was a week-long thing for these children, and they learned about Jesus. They sang songs. They had crafts. They played soccer. They played soccer. And then I had been telling Eileen before I go, we're going to run into kids, and these kids have never had a sweet. They don't know what candy is or anything. And I kept saying, I want to take enough lollipops so that each kid gets 3. And I just kept saying 3. That's all that was in my mind. And I bought a bunch of lollipops, and then I came in one morning and Eileen had bought a big bag of lollipops, and I'm like, oh, is this going to put me over? But it didn't. They fit in my suitcase, and I still could put about 5 more pounds or so in that suitcase. So I went out and got another big bag of lollipops. And I didn't count those lollipops. I did not count them. I just bought them, put them in there, and that was it. When I gave them to the person who was running that program, I said, here, I brought lollipops for the kids. Never thought anything more about it. Tuesday evening, Rebecca, who you had seen a picture of before, she had been working in that tent that day. She comes to me and she said, yeah, we gave out your lollipops today. I said, oh, cool. Kids got lollipops. And she said, yeah, it was like weird. She said there were exactly 100 kids, and there was exactly 300 lollipops. Each kid got 3. I just about broke down. Because that's what I just wanted them all to have 3, and that's what they got. This was a new outreach at this area. They have been to Zambia in the past, but in this area it was a new outreach. So the hope was, we knew it was going to be a little disorganized, but the hope was we would see 1,500 people during that week. We saw, by the grace of God, over 8,500 people, which is absolutely unheard of. And no one got turned away. And that was the number one miracle, because at every outreach they've had to turn people away. They've run out of supplies, they've run out of light, they've run out of time, whatever. People have always gotten turned away. And no one, not one of those people got turned away. We were expecting 1,500 people, or hoping for 1,500. We got 85, and not one got turned away. Everyone got taken care of. That's over 8,500 lives changed in the name of Christ and by the power of the Holy Spirit. And these people will go on to tell others of the goodness of Christ, and so on, and so on, and so forth, until eternity. I thank you all, and I love you all so much for your prayers and your support. I certainly couldn't have gone without your prayers, or in the trepidation I felt about how things were going to go with Cole and Sebastian, and you all stepped up and took good care of them for me, and I never worried once. I missed them, but I never worried once. At nighttime, I missed all of you, and I prayed for all of you, and I really was homesick, but during the day, it was just too busy. But I did keep you on my prayers. And you all were right beside me in Zambia. And I thank you for that.
There's more pictures.
Okay. Okay, so now, when we got to Zambia, this is our Seder feast. And I want to talk a little bit about that. It was a big learning experience. So this was at the Messianic group that sponsored us had us to this place for the service, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the service. It was a short service before we got to have our feast, and I wanted to tell a little bit about it because it was just so interesting. The first thing a woman would do is she would light a candle, or 2 or 3, or how many ever candles she wanted to light. And she would say a prayer. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to be a light to the nations, who gave us Jesus, our Messiah, the light of the world. The candles represented Jesus as light of the world. Then a man would say a prayer, a blessing for the women. And then after that, a woman would say a prayer, a blessing for the men. And then, that's Rabbi Tim at the top. The next thing that would happen would be wine. The wine was given to life and life abundant through the blood of Jesus Christ. And they would say, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And they did drink wine. I didn't, but they did. They gave me some grape juice. The second thing, which I never knew what the challah bread meant, or the challah bread, or however you want to pronounce it, what that meant, but this is what I learned. They provide 2 loaves. It's braided. There's 12 braids. The braids are representative of each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And there's 2 loaves because on the Sabbath there was double portion of manna. And that would be passed around, and everyone would take what they wanted, and that was, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth the bread from the earth. At the end of that, we would pray the Aaronic blessing, and then we'd feast. If you go to the next one, the next picture, that is her name is Faye. She is the rabbi's from Lusaka wife, and she is doing the candles and saying the original prayer. And the next picture. Okay, so now we are actually the next day at the Sabbath services. I took a picture. I didn't want to take a lot of pictures or videos because it's a sacred thing, but I wanted to show you how the little boy in the back, he's doing the shofar. And during the Sabbath, they worship and praise at least 2 hours. The first hour is worship and praise towards Adonai. The second hour is towards Jesus the Messiah. And they play the shofar, and they dance and they sing. And during that time, all of the children are brought up, and they're placed under a tent, under a veil, and there is a song and a blessing for the children. So the children aren't left out. The night before is the men and the women, and during the service it's the children. And then I think if you go, this is the parade of the Torah. This is an ancient Torah. It is a scroll, and they do praise the Torah. But when they praise the Torah, it's not idolatry in any way, shape, or form, because they are singing John 1:1, the Word made flesh. They understand and they realize that this is the Word made flesh. living, breathing. This is Jesus, the Word made flesh. And then what the next picture is. This is just a real nice picture of them holding open the Torah for everybody and the front of their church, the front of their congregation. I'm not supposed to say church, sorry. And the next. This is the orphanage that is right on their compound. Now they have a small church, they have a small congregation, and then they also have an area that is an orphanage, and it is a compound in that 6 foot high walls all around, concrete walls all around. You can't get into the area without going through security. There is security within there, and that is for the protection, because there is a lot of persecution, and that is for their protection. That is for the protection of the children, and that is very, very important, the protection of the children. When I was inside and got to go, I needed to use the restroom, and a woman took me to a security guard, and he took me and stood outside to make sure that I was kept protected. And they did that for anybody, the people there as well. That is a picture of Dr. Hannah. The little girl that she's holding is 3 years old. And this is after the service, and she was saying, "Oh, it's my birthday, it's my birthday, it's my birthday." And we couldn't figure out why she kept saying it was her birthday. And finally I said, "Is it your birthday, or do you want cake?" And she says, "I want cake." So we made sure she got cake. The next time I saw her, she had little crumbs all over her face. Sarah is next to her. Sarah was my roommate. She is from the Netherlands. Beautiful, beautiful woman of God. And then there's some other pictures. Those are some girls from the orphanage, and they are dressed because they danced with the Torah. And I think the next picture is some of the boys. Yeah, those are some of the boys from the orphanage. And the next. Okay, so we're going to stop here for a minute. The sermon I just wanted to say the sermon during the Shabbat, or the service, it was how Paul proved to the people that he went out to that Jesus was Christ, and they recited Acts, Romans, and Corinthians. So this is, even though they are Jews, they are very, very messianic, and they do believe. And so this is the school, an elementary school that's about 5 miles down, and we had provided some supplies for them because, paper and pencils and things of that nature. And I wanted to, if you just go, I wanted to see. Those are the kids. I didn't get to go. Again, I was in the nursing tent. I didn't get to do anything else but that, but I get to see the pictures and I get to hear the stories. But those are some of the kids from the school, and I don't know if the video of them singing will show up for you.
I have it on another email, so I have to switch emails to get the
Oh,
videos.
okay, so that's fine. This, when they went to the school on Monday and they came back, that's when I had learned that the children only got about 2 meals a week, if even. And the days they would get a lollipop from the lollipops, that would be their only meal. So that was just the picture. Those 2 pictures were just a picture of Chinawa, I think I'm pronouncing it right. That's the town that we were in. It was just the huts and that area, but we were there because there was a big enough field space that we could put up the tent city and then have a lot of area to bring people into. So that's how it is that we got there. Now, I think the next pictures are all from the safari, different things. That's the elephants that I saw, and an emu. Lion was pacing. He was waiting to be fed. He was trained to come there. And there's the monkey. I don't know if anybody heard the story. I didn't see any monkeys on the safari, but when I sat down at the outside diner or the outside restaurant with the group, and somebody said, "Look over there." And there was a monkey sitting right next to me. And I was like, "Oh, so I got to see the monkeys." And then after that, I saw a lot of monkeys because they were all over that area. And there he is sitting, cute as a button. I don't know if he's waiting to steal something or if he's waiting to get something. Oh, why did you put that in there?
Is that Ramona smiling?
Why did you put that in there? That was the very first day. That was Sunday. And the lady on the stretcher beside me, she was my very first patient. She was brought in. It was an emergency, and she was in septic shock. The two ladies behind me were my interpreters, and they were also nurses, so they were there to help, but they were my interpreters. And I wish you hadn't done that.
I just think the joy on your face there just speaks volumes.
I think we should put this on our website.
I don't think so. But yeah, the lady had come in septic shock, and the doctor was saying, "She's in septic shock." And I'm like, okay, well, then she's going to die. So I started praying and started doing what I needed to do. About 4 hours later, she was able to sit up, and we took her out, and she sat out, and she got medication to take home with her. So, miracle of God.
Do you want me to play the videos?
What?
You want me to play the videos?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see which one you've got there
Let's
first.
see.
Okay, this is the woman who walked, and her daughter is screaming in the background. You'll hear her screaming, "Jesus is real." Yeah, she hadn't walked for 4 years. And after she walked the first time, she came back, and Patrick, as you could see, was holding her, and she said, "I'm just so exhausted. I'm so exhausted." And Rabbi said, "Well, of course you are. You haven't walked for 4 years." But she did it the second time. She did it the second time for her daughter, and that's why her daughter was screaming.
How about the kids?
And these are the school children, and they sang. Some of the words are English, but yeah, and they were singing, and that was just so precious that I'm glad that you're able to do that.
Thank you.
We love you guys so much.
That's that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now